how well you use the language that will emphasize and enhance your language skill. Hello, hi, namaste, and welcome to Vidhyaashram, the Temple of Excellence. I am Nandakishore, Faculty of English in Vidhyaashram, Mysuru. In my previous session, I had discussed about the topic interpretation of data or data interpretation, or so-called interpretation of advertisements and schedules. In today's session, I'm going to talk about language functions, and this will be the last unit in your workbook. And under this unit, you will be facing 16 odd language functions, and this is mainly considered as speaking skills. Let's start with language functions. So what is a language function and why we use it and how we use it, and why language function is very important in English. So what is language function? How it functions? We use language for a variety of formal and informal. You should know one thing. ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು ಭಾಷೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬಳಸ್ತೀವಿ? ವೇರ್ ಡು ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್? ವೆನ್ ವಿ ಮೀಟ್ ಅವರ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ, ವೆನ್ ವಿ ಮೀಟ್ ಟು ಸಂಬಡಿ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವ್ರ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ನ ನಾವು ಬಳಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, with our family members, with our friends, just casual agi. It is not just formal here, opposite of formal. Hey, like hi macha, hegidya, how are you? Just casually speaking. So formal and informal purposes and specific grammatical structures and vocabulary are often used with each language function. According to this statement, with respect to any language, it has a purpose to deliver. It has a purpose. It has a language function. ಒಂದು ಭಾಷೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ದಿಷ್ಟವಾದ ಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಏನು ಒಂದು ಕ್ರಿಯೆ, ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಏನು ಅದು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಪರ್ಪಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್? Language functions refer to the purposes in which we use language to communicate. Language, ಒಂದು ಭಾಷೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾಕೆ ನಾವು ಬಳಸ್ತೀವಿ? To communicate. When the communication is complete. Now we are talking about language function. ಒಂದು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಶನ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? When is it complete? For example, let us assume there is person X who is talking to person Y. Now, person X is talking to Y and he says something. Assume X ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. To whom? To the person Y. So Y has to understand and he has to reciprocate. He has to respond to what X told. Only then the communication is complete. I will simplify it further down when we move ahead. A language function can be defined as the use to which language is put, the purpose of an utterance, rather than the particular grammatical form an utterance takes. E statement na prakara, what does it say? The purpose of the language is not just to utter. For example, I'm speaking, I'm blabbering so many things in today's session. If the listeners, you listeners, are not able to understand what I am blabbering, what I am teaching, what I am discussing in today's session, then it is of no use. It is not just to utter. It is not just to speak, but to particular grammatical form an utterance takes. What is the grammatical task what we are talking about? It is about what I want to deliver, what I have in my mind. I am putting it out through my mouth, and you are listening, and you will understand and you will respond to what I am speaking right now. So there are hundreds of language functions. Let us get familiar with some of them. When we meet people, we begin the communication process by greeting each other. This is very important. Every day we do it. Everywhere, every day, everyone most probably will do it. When we meet somebody, hi, hello, how are you? Right? We may formal. We may use formal or informal, but one thing is for sure that we will greet or we will communicate in either of this language, informal or formal, but we are going to communicate. Sometimes we may have to introduce a friend or a colleague who is with us. At the end, we take leave or bid farewell. You may not know, knowingly or unknowingly, you will introduce or you will greet your friend, you will bid goodbye or take leave in simple once you are done communicating with your friend or whomsoever. So this is very important. You will do it knowingly or unknowingly. We use formal language. Now we are jumping into the main point here. We use formal language when we meet someone in authority, as I told you in before. Someone in authority, business, associates, strangers, and people in official positions. Informal language is used when we meet close friends, relatives, and members of the family. Now you may have a doubt, sir, let's assume, because I was posed this question by one of my students. His question was, sir, let us assume that one of my friends is in good position and he happens to be my boss, he is in the authority. Can I use informal language to greet him or to meet him or to bid him goodbye? Can I just communicate in informal language? Is it possible? It is left to you to. It depends on the circumstances. But I would suggest you to use formal language when you are talking to your higher authority or your business associates or even the strangers at times. Because it gives a good impression. You know that you two are very well acquainted, you two are best buds. I know that. But what about the rest? Especially when you come to writing part in your first PUC board examination, you cannot presume or assume that your friend happens to be your boss and you cannot use informal language. Use your common sense, for God's sake. Don't be over smart. Next one, some common expressions for greeting. So these are the things that we are going to use. These are the common expressions that we are going to use while greeting somebody. How do you use or how do we use formal language? Remember, when do we use formal language? With our authority, business associates, the strangers, or somebody who is in higher position than us. Good morning, how are you? Right? Good afternoon, good evening. Just a formal language I'm talking about. If you go to informal, what happens in informal? Hello, I haven't seen you for a long time. Hi there, hi everybody, hi. You might be shocked if you know clearly about language function. Grammatically speaking, hi or hello is informal. Let me tell you, when you're greeting your boss or your superior people, don't say hi or hello. It is informal. I know they might be fine using it. They might not have any issues you greeting them with hi and hellos. But grammatically speaking, it is informal. How do you greet them? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. That is how you're going to greet them. If they greet you back saying hi, hello, only then you have the rights to tell them hi and hello. I would like to tell you one more thing. When do we use good morning? Is good morning only limited till 12 noon or in the afternoon? Can't we wish good morning post noon or afternoon? If you ask me this question, good morning could be wished even in the afternoon, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? Because if you happen to meet a person for the first time in a day, in that particular day, you can greet him or her with good morning. So good morning could be wished both in the morning and in the afternoon, at night as well at times. So good morning could be wished for the first time if you happen to meet the person for the first time in the day, in that particular day. So as we speak about informal language, I did, hi everybody, and I, and so on. So here is the conversation. Look at the following conversation and just try to identify the language function here. Madan and Mohan. So there is a conversation, the dialogue is going on between two people. Madan, good morning, Mr. Mohan. How are you? So with this good morning, you could be able to identify that this is the formal introduction. Mohan, I'm fine. Thank you. This is very important. Most of us, most of you may not say this thank you if somebody asks you, how are you? How are you doing? How do you do? Your reply should be, I'm fine. Necessarily not be, I'm fine. It could be, I'm fantabulous, I'm doing great. But whatever you tell before, thank you will follow them. Thank you for asking. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, Mr. Madan? Madan, I am fine. Again, thank you. You should note this. This is very important. I am fine. Thank you. Only then the language function is complete. Most of us would answer the question saying, I'm doing great. That's all. We stop. We don't say thank you. Thank you for asking. I'm doing great. I'm fine. Thank you. We are happy to have you as our neighbor. So this is the conversation. The dialogues are going on between two neighbors. Do come home sometime. It's a polite way to invite somebody to your home. Mohan, sure, I will. See you soon. Bye. Just look at this. These are just 3 or 4 simple sentences, but the language function, it is not complex. It is very simple. In the first hand, it is simple. It is straightforward. No unnecessary talks. It is formal. You should identify that this conversation is between two neighbors and it is in formal language and no rubbish, unnecessary talks, straightforward. Sure, I will. See you soon. Bye. Madan says bye. And one more thing, the punctuation marks, if you observe, sure, I will. I will in the sense, I will come home sometime. See you soon. Break the sentences and he says bye. So the language components are complete here. Next one, in your workbook, it says starting a conversation with a stranger. In the previous slide, we saw the conversation or the dialogues between two neighbors. Let us assume you don't know a person who you are talking to. So how do you start a conversation? Sometimes we need help from strangers. How do we start a conversation with them? Let me tell you in Kannada. For example, nimge ello ಹೋಗಬೇಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ದಾರಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. In Kannada it is very simple, right? You find a pedestrian. ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ಬ ದಾರಿ ಹೋಕರನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ರು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಬಸ್ ಈ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಹೇಳಿ. Right? This is how we ask for the direction. Boss, ಈ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಬರಲ್ಲ, we have to go. But still, the words we use, I'm talking about the words, carefully observe and listen. The words I'm using, address ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಣ್ಣ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಬರಲ್ಲ, we have to go, but still we use these words. Right? And in response, the stranger will guide you. Boss, straight ಹೋಗಿ 1.5 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲೊಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಾಟರ್ ಟ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. Right? But can you use those words in your English language function, which will be questioned for 4 or 5 marks? Highly impossible. Just recall how I spoke. You didn't introduce yourself. You didn't say hi. Kannadadalli, Anna, namaste, hi, hello, ಏನು ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು. Correct? Straight away we stop a person. ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯನನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅಣ್ಣ ಈ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅವ್ರ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಆಯ್ತು ಅಣ್ಣ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್, nothing more, nothing less. But how do you start a conversation, or how do you ask for the direction, or how do you talk to a stranger if you want to seek help? Let us see that. So this is Suma and Rita. So we don't know what this conversation all about, but it is a conversation with two strangers. Suma, excuse me, first thing, excuse me, we don't know why she is asking excused. Can I ask for a favor? She is asking for a favor. Can I ask for a favor? So Rita says, yes, what is it? Or, of course, what is it? Yes, please, what is it? With this yes, that doesn't mean it is the ultimate purpose of the language. You can be as much polite as you can. Yes, what is it? So Suma is asking for a favor. Suma, I have travel sickness. Who is saying this? Suma, I have travel sickness. Would you mind if I sit beside the window? So Suma, she has a travel sickness and she wants to sit next to the window. She wants a window seat. Why? Because she might puke. Beside the window. So Rita, if she is polite enough, what would she do? No, not at all. No is not denying. What was the question she asked? Would you mind? Would you mind? ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅಭ್ಯಂತರ ಇದೆಯಾ? ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮಾ ನಾನು ವಿಂಡೋ ಸೀಟ್ ಪಕ್ಕ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ? So what would be your response? ಇಲ್ಲ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಂದು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ or no or nahi doesn't mean you're rejecting the request or a favor here. It means I would not mind, I don't mind, please have a seat. So no, not at all is, here Rita is saying, no, I don't mind you coming and having a seat next to the window. Suma, thank you. So next thing would be, thank you very much. For God's sake, you are saving my day. By the way, I'm Suma. She is introducing. But do we do it? Most of us don't. Most of us, in that matter, we don't feel comfortable to start up a conversation with the strangers. We have that maybe shy feeling, or maybe a bit of ego, maybe a bit of attitude, that why is that I'm going to talk to this person? Let that person talk to me first. Whatever it might be, but from the examination point of view, this is very important. Your formal language has to be complete. It has to be complete. Rita, I'm Rita. Now, once Suma is done introducing herself, even Rita is introducing, saying, I'm Rita, nice to meet you. Now, observe this conversation. It begins and it ends. There is no byes, no see you, no tatas. It's just the conversation begins and it winds up and the whole language function is complete. What was that? Suma wanted a window seat. She went and sat. How did she request the seat next to the window? Did she command, or did she order, or did she do something else? And the action is complete here. The language function is complete. Next one, asking for directions. As I told you, how do you ask for the direction from the stranger? Joyce and Mary. Now, excuse me, could you tell me where the bus station is? Now, Joyce wants to know where is the bus station. And how will Mary respond? There are two bus stations here, clearly giving the instructions. There are two bus stations here, one for the private buses and another for government buses. Which one would you like to have? Or which one would you like to go? Which one would you want? There are two, for an instance, there are two. So either you want to go for a private bus or the government bus. So Joyce, the government bus station, please, please, very important. It would be better if you can guide me towards private bus station or the government bus station. Mary. It's just half a kilometer from here. Go straight and take a right turn after the circle. It's just there. It's just there. Now, try to observe here. The language function has begun, but somewhere it is incomplete. Though it seems complete, I would say this is what is prescribed in your workbook, but I would say you need to add one more dialogue here. Once Mary guides you towards the government bus station, it's your duty, Joyce. Joyce, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, or thank you would also suffice. You don't have to be too polite. Just a formal ending. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next one, note. There is a note in your workbook. This is very important. If you want to draw the attention of a person you do not know, this is very important. You can use expressions like hello, excuse me, just a moment please, or sorry. Just think about yourself and question yourself, how many of us would use these expressions to just seek the attention when you are in a crowd? Most of us don't. I would say most of us don't. Let us assume you are standing in a big queue and you want to reach somewhere. You would just don't mind pushing each other, elbowing each other, right? None of us would prefer using, excuse me, kindly make way. How many of us use it? Maybe 10%, barely 10%. And 90% of the people, they use body language. Not the verbal language, they use body language. They elbow each other and start making way by themselves. Next one, there are few expressions that you can use. You have to use. Just observe this. Excuse me, there is a question mark. You have to fill it up. Would you mind sitting here? Excuse me, do you mind if I borrow your pen? You're going to fill it in. Depending on the punctuation mark, you're going to make the statement or you're going to frame the question. So since this is the question mark, we are going to frame a question here. I hope you don't mind my or me asking, but where are you from? But where are you from? Excuse me, asking but, this one seems to be wrong even in the workbook. Excuse me, asking but, somewhere the language is incomplete here. The language function is incomplete. Let us say, excuse me, but I would like to know your name. Let us assume that is what they wanted to ask. Sorry to trouble you, but I really need your help. I'm so damn tired and packed. I need your help, please. Sorry to trouble you, but I need your help. I beg your pardon, but I want to know why you were so angry on me. I beg your pardon, but I want to know why you were so angry on me. Next one, do excuse me. I would like to join your group. I would like to join for the dinner. Terribly hot, windy, cold, isn't it? Yes. It could be terribly hot or windy or cold, isn't it? Would you mind if I borrow your bike? Would you mind if I borrow $100 from you? Hi, great party or music, isn't it? Again, the language function. Forgive me for asking, but I want to know your name. I'm sorry. I know we have spoken so many times, we have met so many times, but I don't know your name yet. Forgive me for asking, but would you mind telling me your name? There are instances where you might have met a person millions of times, but you don't know his or her name. It is such an embarrassing thing, right? This might have happened in your life as well. Or you tend to forget names, or you tend to get confused with the names. So this is how you're going to use the language, and language has got a function to perform. It has to perform some function. So these are the functions you get to see. It's not that whomever you meet, you only use one language function. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. No, there are different language functions. I have seen a person just using the same phrase again and again, over and over, which is so irritating. No, there are different language functions. So the main purpose of knowing this language function is to make use of the language depending on the context. How well you use the language, that will emphasize and enhance your language skill, and how well you can speak and communicate. So that's it for today's session. I'm going to meet you in my next session. In my next session, I'm going to talk more about language functions. As I told you, there are 16 odd language functions, exercises, and I'm going to take up each one of them, and I'm going to deal with each and every language function. Let's meet in the next session. Until then, keep practicing. Have a good day.